we will look at the next concept, which is known as DXC. DXC stands for Direct Extractor Connection. So let me log into the remote desktop connection. I'm just starting with the first topic. Any doubts, we'll discuss at the end of the session. Okay. So DXC stands for Direct Extractor Connection. Now first let me give you a brief introduction. Before Hana was introduced into market, we had ECC. Now from ECC, is my voice okay? Hello everyone. Any issue in my voice? Hello? It's okay now? Okay, thank you. Okay, so before HANA was introduced into market, so previously what we used to do is, now you have ECC and we have BW. So BW stands for Business Warehouse. So usually what we do is, ECC is basically an OLTP system. ECC is an OLTP and BW is a OLAP system. Online transaction processing, and this one is online analytical processing. Okay, so now these systems are optimized for inserts, they're optimized for updates of data. Now we have in ECC tables, and from tables we combine different tables and we have something called data source. Data source are nothing but sources of data. Data sources are nothing but sources of data. Now you can join these different tables together, form a relationship, and then SAP delivers these data sources. SAP basically delivers these data sources. And even we can also create these data sources. The voice is breaking today. I know today there was a network issue. Please hold on for a minute. Just please hold on for a minute. So just please hold on for a minute. Is this okay now? Any improvement? Hello? Can anyone find any improvement now? Okay, I'll just try to continue. I think today network is bad, but I'll just try to continue. If it is again happening multiple times, then we can see tomorrow. If something happens multiple times, then we can see tomorrow. Otherwise, we can continue today. So I'll just continue. So if you see, we were discussing about a topic called DXC. DXC stands for Direct Extractor Connection. So on the source system, you have ECC. ECC is basically optimized for transaction processing. Now this is the situation before HANA. So before HANA, ECC is an OLTP system. Now we can generate reports on ECC. These are standard ABAP reports. You can ask questions on the ECC and you can get the answers back. But these reports are operational reports. Now, if you want to do historical reporting, so what we do is we take a copy of data from these tables, and these tables, by having a relationship between them, by creating relationship between them, we create function modules. Function modules are the programs where these function modules are embedded into data sources, and these data sources carry data from source system, that is on the ECC, to BW using an RFC connection. So using an RFC connection, the connection is RFC, the communication method between the ECC and BW is an RFC connection. So by using an RFC connection, we basically replicate these data sources from ECC to BW. So once these data sources are in BW, once we have these data sources in BW, now on top of these data sources, we copy again this data and store this data in different containers. These are different containers. These containers are like cube-like structures, just like analytic views, calculation views. So these containers are like cube-like structures. On these cube-like structures, we basically design questions, and when the end user basically asks these questions, it gets answers from these cubes. So the point over here I'm trying to focus over here is that these systems are optimized for inserts, updates, and all this data from the source system is copied using an RFC connection to BW, and BW is an OLAP system, online analytical processing. And these systems are optimized for reporting or asking questions on the current data, asking questions on the past data. Now this was the situation before HANA was released. Now what is the major drawback over here is both these applications, both ECC and BW, were sitting on a database, and these databases are basically very slow, like MS SQL, DB2. Now BW is a data warehousing solution. Now when we say a data warehouse, it's a warehouse of data. So when you say warehouse of data, obviously you will have large amounts of data that should be processed on BW. Now when you have large amounts of data that should be processed on BW, and when your database is very slow, obviously getting answers to the questions that we ask will be very, very slow. So users are basically getting frustrated because to process a lot of data, we need to do a lot of maintenance in terms of creating aggregates, indexes, performance tuning. So BW consultants used to do a lot of performance tuning in order to get answers to the asked questions in a very effective manner. So this was the situation now. Now what is the major drawback? The database. So SAP came up with a new database called HANA. Now as you know, HANA is quite faster when you compare with other databases. It's an in-memory, column-oriented parallel processing. You can push down the logic to database. HANA can process transaction processing. HANA can process analytical processing. It can process structured, semi-structured. You can process text data, all this kind of analysis. You can use HANA for planning, prediction, historical reporting. So everything can be done in HANA. Now, we're coming to the topic called DXC. Now, instead of taking this data to BW, and asking the questions over here, what we currently do is we take the copy of same data from here to HANA. And then the same questions that you basically designed to ask questions to ask on BW system, we design on top of HANA. The same questions we design on top of HANA, and you ask these questions on HANA. So when you ask these questions on BW, when you compare with asking the same questions in HANA, obviously the questions to answers, it's very faster in HANA. So now what is DXC doing? DXC is basically helping to move data from ECC to HANA. So DXC is basically a connection that helps to get the copy of data that is on the ECC to HANA, and then whatever the questions that you designed on BW, you can ask the same questions on HANA, and users are now happy because the data or the answers you get is quite faster. Okay, so now coming back to the technical stuff, let us discuss a few technical things for DXC. Now, in order to perform DXC activities, in order to work on DXC, there are two things that we have to do. One is the configuration of DXC. Now, who takes care of the configuration of DXC? The configuration of DXC is taken care by HANA admin. So HANA admin basically takes the configuration for DXC, and HANA application consultant helps to move data from ECC to HANA. So what are the different configurations that we have to perform in DXC? The first thing is you have to make sure that the Access engine is enabled. The Access engine. Now, Access engine is nothing but it's a lightweight web application server. It's a lightweight web application server which runs inside the HANA database. Now, when we say Access engine, now what is Access? Now, how you have t-shirt sizes like XXL, extra large, and you also have extra small. So extra small is nothing but in HANA database, in a HANA database, you have an extra small, which is Access. You have an extra small application server, which is running inside the database. So this is known as Access engine. So if you want to see Access engine, first we have to make sure that Access engine is enabled. From SP8 onwards, Access engine is by default enabled. If you want to see whether it is enabled or not, click Start. Let us click on Start. Let us click on Start. Let us click on Hana Studio. So let us log on to Hana Studio. Click Log On. Provide the password. Welcome 1234. Double click on the instance. Double click on the instance. And then click on the configuration. Click on Expand Access Engine. Click on Expand Application Container. So once you expand the application container, here you see lib access DXC. So lib access DXC, you see there is a small green color icon. It means that the Access engine is enabled. So once the access engine is enabled, the second thing that the admin does is he creates an HTTP connection. He creates an HTTP connection between ECC to HANA. So if you go to the ECC, click Start, click SAP Logon, double click on the ECC. Let us give the username and password. Let us provide the username and password. Click Continue with the logon and enter the transaction code SM59 and click Enter. So once you click Enter, expand the folder, HTTP connections to external server, and then once you basically drag and go to the bottom, here you see there's a connection called DXC underscore RFC. Double click on DXC underscore RFC, click on connection test and click response body. So once you click response body, here you would see SAP HANA direct extractor connection DXC service is up and running. So this connection and the connection type is HTTP connections to external server, and the name of the connection is DXC underscore RFC. So now here you have the connection which is DXC underscore RFC, which is basically connecting ECC and HANA system. Now once the second step is finished, and the third step, the admin has to specify in a table called RS admin. There's a table called RS admin. This table maintains data import settings. So let us basically again go back to ECC and enter the key code SE11, enter, and provide the table name RS admin and click display and click contents and click execute. So once you click execute, so here you find there are two important parameters over here. One is PSA to HDB destination and PSA to HDB schema. So there are two important parameters. One is PSA to HDB destination and the second one is PSA to HDB schema. Now what does both this destination and PSA schema does is, now you have ECC, we have HANA. Now what is the connection between ECC and HANA? The name of the connection is DXC underscore RFC. So this is the name of the connection. We already tested. Service is up and running. Everything is fine. Now on the ECC side you have data source. On the ECC side we have data source. Now these data sources, where they go? They basically go to BW. These data sources are replicated to BW system. These data sources are replicated to BW. Now How these data sources are replicated to BW? By using an RFC connection. So basically using an RFC connection, the data source from ECC is replicated to BW. Now, PSA to HDB destination means, now what is the destination connection, which is DFC underscore DXC underscore RFC. Now this is the destination name or the connection name. And what is PSA to HDB schema? The schema in which the DXC tables should be grouped. All the tables that are basically incoming via DXC connection should go to what connection? Sorry, should go to what schema? They should go to what schema? So nothing but you have to specify the schema name over here, because we require a schema in where this table should go. So that is what we specify over here. So what is the schema name in which these DXC tables will go? Now you see here, it is DXC underscore schema. So if you go to Hana Studio and expand the catalog, let us go to Hana Studio and expand the catalog. Expand the catalog. At the catalog, you see there is a schema called DXC schema. So this is where all the DXC tables will come in here. All the DXC tables will basically come into this schema. So basically these two parameters are, one is what is the connection which the DXC will use to communicate with HANA, and the second one is what is the schema in which these tables will go and store, which is DXC schema. So this is what these two parameters are. So the name of the schema in HANA is DXC schema. Okay. Now this is what the configuration is done by the admin guys. The first one is he checks whether the access engine is enabled. The second one is he creates a HTTP connection between ECC to HANA in the T code SM59. And the third step, he basically checks the RS admin table to maintain the parameters. DXC underscore RFC is the name of the connection, and DXC underscore schema is where the DXC tables will go and store. Now once all the settings are done, now what is our responsibility over here? As a HANA application consultant, what we have to do? Let's see what we have to do. Let's go to MS Paint again. So first we have to know a few important T codes for DXC. One is RSA2. The second one is RSO2. And third one is RSA3. And fourth one is RSDS. And fifth one is RSA1. So these are the important T codes that we will use in DXC. RSA2, RSO2, RSA3, RSDS, and RSA1. So RSA2 is nothing but it contains the repository for data sources. RSO2 is where you can create data sources. RSA3 you can check data sources. RSDS is where you can replicate data sources. RSA1 is the administrative data warehousing workbench for BW solution. So I'll just try to show you these T codes. Let's go to ECC. Let's go to the ECC and then let's come back to the initial screen and then let's type in RSA2 data source repository. Now this is nothing but it contains all the data sources. These data sources can be standard or these data sources can be customized. So let us enter one data source which is a standard data source that are provided by SAP, which is 0 customer underscore attr. Now this is a master data source where it contains all the customer related information. Click display. And click extract checker. You're just checking the data source. Click execute. So once you execute the data source, now this is the data that you see over here. Now the T code that you're seeing here, this is nothing but RSA3. If you click on ALV grid, now you see the data source data. So this is the incoming data source for this. This is the incoming data for this data source, which is 0 customer underscore attr. Now this is a standard one. So in similar fashion, you have a lot of data sources. You see all these are different data sources that are available on the ECC side. They basically grouped by applications. All these data sources are grouped by applications. So these are all standard data sources you have at the RSA2. Now let's say you want to create your own data source. That you can do it RSO2. These are all the BW related transaction codes. You can go to RSO2, enter. Here you can maintain generic data sources. Generic data sources are the data sources which are basically created by customers or partners. So you can specify a data source name. Let me give in as G sales underscore order underscore header underscore data. So this is the data source name I'm specifying over here. Basically I'm trying to create a new data source and click create. So once you click create, you can specify the application component, which is SD, and then you can give the description, provide the description and provide the table name. So let us enter SAP standard table like VBAK. I'm giving a table name called VBAK, and then let us click on save. Let us click on save. Now once you click on save, once you click on the save button, the data source gets saved. Click on local object. Again click on local object and click save. So once you click save, now at the bottom you see data source has been successfully created. Now this is the name of the data source. So this one is the name of the data source. Let me go back to the picture. So this is the name of the data source that we just created. And underneath the data source, what do we have? We have a table, which is a standard table which is provided by SAP. The name of the table is VBAK. Now this data source we tied up to the, sorry, this table we tied up to the data source. So now what we have to do is we have to replicate this data source from ECC to BW using an RFC connection. So we'll replicate the data source from ECC to BW using an RFC connection. So let us do this. Now this is on the ECC. Now let's replicate this data source to BW. So how do we replicate to BW? By using the T code RSDS. RSC3 is to check and RSDS is to replicate data source. So this transaction code, one of the function of this transaction code is you can replicate data source from ECC to BW. So let us go to transaction code. Let's go back. In the RSO2 we just created, click back and give the transaction code RSO2 and click enter. Sorry, it is not RSO2, RSDS. Let's enter the transaction code, which is RSDS. So once we enter the transaction code RSDS, click enter and provide the data source name, copy paste the data source name, and give the source system name. So the source system over here is T90 CLNT 090. So once you give the source system name and the data source name, click data source and click replicate data source. So what are we trying to do? We are trying to move the copy of data source from ECC to BW. We're trying to move the copy of data source from ECC to BW. So basically, now we are doing this step. The data source which is on the ECC, I'm moving on to the BW using the T code RSDS. So once you click replicate, now you see the screen, a data source. How do you want to create this object in BI? As RSDS and click continue. So once you click continue, at the bottom you see data source jet sales underscore order underscore HER underscore data was replicated successfully. So once this data source is replicated successfully to the BW system, so next thing is we need to go to the T code RSA1. Let's go to the T code RSA1, click back and enter the transaction code RSA1, click enter. Now this is the BW transaction code. So once you enter the transaction code RSA1, now here you see data warehousing workbench modeling and click on the source systems. Now basically this is an RFC connection. T90 CLNT 090. Now this is basically, now this is the RFC connection or the source system. So via this connection, I double click on this, I go inside the connection and search for my data source, which I just replicated. I'll just search. So let us search for this data source, which we just replicated. So let's search on the RSA1 transaction code. Click on Find button and copy paste the data source name and click search. So once you search, now it basically points you where the data source is. Double click on the data source. Now this is display data source. So until now we have completed one part, that is replicating data sources to BW. Okay, so now data source is on the BW. Now let's come to the second part. Now you have HANA system over here. Now what is the primary aim over here? Now we need to get this data source. The data source that is over here, we need to get to HANA. Now how do we get this data source to HANA? So when you activate this data source, when you activate this on the BW side, when you activate this, the data source basically is created at the HANA database. So once you activate this, then there are basically 5 tables which are generated by system. One is 00, 40, 70, 80, and AO. The 00 table stands for active data table, 40 activation queue table, 70, 80, AO are called as control tables. All these tables combined is called as in-memory DSO. So all the tables combined, we call it as in-memory DSO. It has 00 active data, 40 activation queue, 70, 80, and AO are called as control tables. Now once you activate the data source in BW, all these tables are created in HANA side. So let us check this now. So let me go back to BW. Now before that, I'll just copy the data source name. See, the version is still modified, it is not active. So meanwhile, I'll copy this data source and let me go to Hana Studio. So now this data source should create in which schema? So we also seen the tables of DXC will go to a schema called DXC schema. Now that is what we specified at PSA to HDB schema. So let's go back to Hana Studio. Now let's expand the DXC schema. Now let me right click on the tables. Let me find table. Let me copy paste the table over here. So do you find any table over here? So what does it say? It says no object found. Basically there are no tables yet. So meanwhile, I'll go back to BW. Click on change button. Click on the change button and click on activate. Let's activate the data source. Let's click on activate data source. So once you click on activate, the data source is active. Data source got activated. Let's go back to Hana Studio. Now again, let's do the same thing. Just to refresh, cancel, right click the tables folder again and click find and copy paste the table again. Now this time let us see. Now you see there are 5 tables generated: 0, 0, 40, 70, 80 and AO. So all these tables combinedly is known as in-memory DSO. 0, 0 is called as active data, 40 activation queue, 70, 80 AO is called as, combined these 3 tables are called as control tables. Now let me click on 0, 0 table and click on show content. Click show content, click OK. Now please see, until now what we have done is we only got the metadata or the structure of the table, but there is no data. We only got the structure. Now this structure is similar to the structure of ECC table. Now if you remember, when I started this exercise, we created a data source in RSO2, and this RSO2 transaction code is pointing to a table called VBAK. The same VBAK table structure is now available at 0, 0 table. But this table is associated with data source. The data source is replicated, activated, and then the structure is available at the HANA. Now we don't have data in this table. So in order to get data into this 0, 0 table, we need to schedule a job. And the name of the job technically is known as info package. So info package is a job that triggers an request via RFC to the data source. It requests the data from data source, and again the data does not come back to data source. It basically does not come back to data source. It bypasses this and it is routed via, what is the connection it routed? Via HTTP connection. Via an HTTP connection, the data is now available at 0, 0 table. Now this connection we created in the SM59, HTTP connections to external systems. So let me go back to BW now. Let's go back and right click on the data source. Click create info package. Copy the technical name. Copy paste. Click save. Click on the save button. Click on schedule button and click on start. So once you click on start, once you click on start, you see a message at the bottom, data was requested. Now once you see data was requested, it means that it requested the data from ECC. Now let us go back to HANA. Previously this table was empty. Just refresh. Now once you refresh, you see now the data is in the HANA system. So if you go to these tables, let me copy this table. So this is the table that is generated by BW. Let me right click on the tables and filter, copy paste the table, click whole word, click OK. Now you see the table over here. Right click, data preview, click analysis, click on analysis tab, and then if you would like to see what is my sales org, and under the sales org, what is my net revenue of the sales document. This is the net value of the sales document. Now it's basically showing you the sales org and the net value of the sales document. So you see, so basically now once you get these tables, I can just do a quick check. So in this way you can get data via DXC to HANA system. Now what is the importance of 40 table over here? You see there are other tables like 40. Now 40 is basically an activation queue. So what is the importance of 40 is, now whenever there are any changes to the data that is made on the source system side, these changes are basically handled at the 40 table. It checks for the already existing entries on the 00 table and only gets changes. So it basically gets changes and overwrites the existing records. So all the changes also will be carried to the 00 table in case whenever you have any changes. Now DXC is only relevant when you have BW. The importance of DXC is, in a sidecar scenario, you can move data only by creating a connection from ECC to BW. So from ECC to HANA. You don't require BODS, we don't require SLT. So DXC is basically a batch process. It's only a batch. By just creating a connection, which is a DXC connection, you can get data sources which are available on the ECC to BW. And once these tables are in HANA, then again we can start doing data modeling, creating of attribute views, creating of analytic views, and then exposing these views to reporting. So the main use of DXC is, it's a connection to move data sources from ECC to HANA, because when you do reporting on the BW, it is slower. So we can bypass and create a new solution in HANA. If you have any questions on this, please ask me. So why use DXC? So DXC, you see, now you have these complex extractors which are delivered by SAP. You see there are, now when we go to RS, we go to RS-A2, you see there are different data sources, and these data sources have complex logic. Click on Extractor. These are based on function modules, which are programs, and these programs are written by SAP. These programs are very complex programs that are written by SAP, and by using these programs you can denormalize data. The data in the ECC is stored in normalized format. The data sources denormalize, and then the data is brought into HANA. So these data sources are very rich in the logic on the ECC side. So next question is, which table among 5 tables we use in creating information views? The 00 table. So 00 table is what we use to create in the information views. So always we use the active data table. So once the data is available in HANA, you see, once the data is available in HANA, you can go back and check on the BW, because when you created this info package, you see, when you right click on the data source, click manage. So now this is the request that is generated when you execute the job. So you can click on this request, and so these many number of records are transferred. 8,793 records are transferred. So it doesn't hold any data on the BW side, but just it shows the monitoring log. How many records have been transferred? Only the monitoring log, but no data is stored on the BW side. So what are the standard data sources, repositories we use in real time? So there are a lot of data sources. This is based on the requirement. So based on the requirement, we take these data sources. Now these data sources, some belong to sales. Now that part is actually taken care by BW consultant. So whatever the data sources that are useful, you can coordinate with BW consultant. But our job is only to get and make sure that the data sources are the data sources which we replicate to BW. Once activated, these data sources are available in HANA. The next question, does it transfer all the records at once by package by package? What if the load fails to transfer few records? Now if the load fails for any reason, the data is not available in HANA. So the load has to be successful to get data in HANA. If load fails, you cannot see any data. Next question, why do we have to register repository and CMC? So we have to register the repository and CMC because BODS should be knowing, BOBI should know what repository are we using. So the repository that is created, we register at CMC. So all the user management is done on the BOBI platform. Okay, and thank you everyone to attend today's session. We'll see you tomorrow, same time. Oh, okay, sorry. Tomorrow is Friday, right? So, so in tomorrow we do not have session. The next session we'll have on Monday. So next session we'll have on Monday. Tomorrow we do not have session. So I'll see you on Monday for the next session. So next thing is so there's a question here where in BODS will we schedule the jobs? So let me finish this question. Okay. So in order to schedule jobs in BODS, you can go to data services. Let me show you. You can go to data services management console. So double click on tools folder. Where is the tools folder here? Double click on tools folder. Double click on data services management console. Provide the system name. Provide the username and password. Surya S capital URYA 1234. Click log on. So once you click log on, click on the administrator. Once you click on the administrator, it will take some time. Let me show you. Is it okay now? I think it got muted. So basically you can click back. I'm just trying to tell, once you click on the repository, click on batch job configuration. So there are all the jobs. Click on add schedule. Click on add schedule. So once you click on add schedule, you can give the name of the schedule and you can select what date you want to schedule this job. Now do you want once a day or multiple times a day? And then click apply. So once you click apply, then the job is in scheduled, and then according to the schedule time, we click on the repository schedules. So whatever the jobs that are added to repository schedules which are active, they're available over here. So these jobs are active over here. So in this way you can schedule the jobs. If you want to deactivate, you can deactivate from here. Check. So you can deactivate these jobs by selecting and deactivate them. So in this way you can add schedules for BODS jobs in the SAP Data Services Management Console. Okay, thank you everyone. I'll see you tomorrow. See you on Monday, and have a nice weekend. Thank you. I think there is one more topic that is coming in. Is DXC works on BW on HANA only? No, DXC doesn't. So if you have BW on HANA, there is no need of DXC at all. When BW on a non-SAP, non-HANA database, when you have BW on non-HANA database, then we require DXC.